Okay, hello and welcome everybody. I am here with Lockhart. I'm Jennie Friedman, and you are being a part of our very first experience doing, we're going to do five of these, but we're calling it STAR Decoding, where we're going to look at celebrities that we all love and or at least you know of. And we're going to look at their astrology and their human design. We're going to pick one celebrity every week for the five different types in human design. And we're going to look at their astrology charts and we're going to decode looking at their light codes. Like we're going to look and see where their placements are in the cosmic blueprint. And it's going to be just really fun because maybe you will see yourself in there. Maybe you'll learn a thing or two. And what else are we saying here, Kay? I'd love for you to introduce yourself and talk about us a little bit before we get started.
Happily. Hi, I'm Kendra. My nickname is Kay. And by day, I am a jeweler, but I have been in metaphysics and higher mind mastery ever since my teen years. And one of the most effective tools before a big change, during a big change, or after has been astrology. And I've really had a beautiful relationship, not just in my life, but watching my clients grow and thrive when they stop the social coding and get into their original design. So that's kind of the point that connects me and Jennie. And then my lovely co-host here is from Long Island. I'm coming to you from Chicago, and it was a magic meeting. It went from a digital online relationship to in person, and she's my secret weapon in human design to help me with my business because that's not always right in your chart. That's something you're making up with your free will.
Yes, yes. And it's interesting to see how you can take some of your human design elements and if you harness the energetic of it, like you can, you know, really up level fast versus like trying to like I always say it's like figuring it out. What am I doing? Where am I? Yeah. So anyway, I'm excited for this. And why don't you announce who we're doing first?
So it's no secret. In fact, I was really happy to have you be excited as I can hardly contain my enthusiasm. We're going to be talking about Jim Carrey. And now you can probably say which one. And that's part of the beauty of him. The comedian, the funny actor, the sketch group member, the stage, the TV, the film, the book, the art, the children's writer, the philosopher. So we're going to take a look at, yes, all the above.
Yes, and that's what I'm so excited about. So, how do you want to start? Do you want to show us? Why don't you lay out like looking at his chart for a minute and explain kind of anything that's, let's look and see what we're looking at first.
Let's do that. Let's go straight to his chart and get a feel for what, depending where you're at as far as your familiarity with astrology, unless it's a completely foreign modality to you, you may have heard the big three. And what that simply said, what that is it's the combination or the recipe that you know yourself to be and that others pretty much can understand without being taught. It's very personal versus more impersonal pieces of your chart, which would be more like tools or situations or opportunities. So let's go take a look at my childhood crush.
Fantastic. I was so excited to do him.
There we go. All right. So without too much into the big three, because that can definitely get people stuck in the listening of what's going on, we have his ascendant right here in Scorpio. And very interestingly, he's got the planet of Neptune conjunct it. What that gives Jim as an overview as far as how he occurs to people, how he appears as a character, a persona in his life, is going to have elements of mystery, imagination, creativity, depth, sensitivity. And that Neptune on there comes in and says blurred boundaries. So he may have had a hard time feeling like he really knew himself well in his formative years. And we'll go into that a little more, but that is definitely where his charisma comes in, is because there's so much power and transformation in a Scorpio placement. The next that we
Yeah.
are most familiar with is what's his sun sign. When people say, what's your sign? They're usually referring to your sun. And where this gets complicated for a lot of people is they think you are your sun sign. No, that's just your path and your methodology in life. So we're going to jump down, and the symbol for sun is that circle with a dot in the middle, and his sun is in Capricorn. The methodology of the way that Jim's going to move through his entire life is going to be discipline, ambition, structure, goals, achievement, and a relationship with time as an asset. This is a guy who long game, strong game, and he finishes what he starts. One of my favorite stories about Jim is when he was 10, he wrote a letter to Carol Burnett, who was a well-known comedian and had a TV show in America, The Carol Burnett
Oh
Show.
yeah, I remember that. I grew up watching that.
He wrote the queen of sketch comedy. She was as big for her time as Lucille Ball, who had a comedy TV series that was acting. Carol had sketches and entertainment and variety and other
Right.
famous people coming in. So it was a little more Saturday Night Live precursor. So at age 10, he wrote her a letter saying, I've worked on my craft for about 2 years. I want you to know I've mastered several impersonations and I've really got my chops down. And I thought that's such a little Capricorn move, is they're so
Yeah,
mature.
right. He's in mastery at age 10.
Yeah, like I've worked on this for 2 years. I'm really coming into my really coming into my shine, which is what the sun does, is it's how you shine, and we'll talk about where because it's in his third house. But let's round out his big three and jump over to the moon. And there's its symbol right there. It's in the eighth house. Again, a very Scorpio placement. The eighth house deals with your deepest self, your most potent transformations, your subconscious, your fears that you don't have a full connectivity with, because obviously you got some suppression of them to be able to function as a main character in life. That moon in Gemini is a superpower for him. Between the Neptune on the ascendant in Scorpio and that moon in Gemini in a very Scorpio house, I wouldn't be surprised if he is an unofficial psychic. I think that he
Mm.
definitely has a relationship, that blurred boundary with that Neptune on the ascendant to cosmic information and experiences. But
And
that, yeah, go
he's
ahead.
got that 17 degrees in his moon, which makes me, when I saw that, I said, oh, that's probably why it was later in life when he became the philosopher and he went through that awakening experience and was so public about it.
Yes. And that is why the moon in Gemini is his superpower. It gives him that improvisation around what he's working with emotionally. And it gives him the ability to take on so much chameleon energy of feelings. And I think that's why his repertoire is from just slapstick to funny to clueless to sensitive to megalomaniac to depressive. Like if you look through all of the characters he's played, it's a
Yeah,
nonstop kaleidoscope. The guy is just clay waiting to be shaped into whatever he feels like in the moment. And it's to me, that's part of the beauty of him. So those are his big three.
absolutely.
And I will stop the share for a moment.
Yeah, I love that. It's so interesting to look at it through that lens. Let me show you his human design. So, looking at it this way, right? We can see like he's a generator. That type just has energy for, like you said, in his third house, he's very doing all the thing, and then you listed all the things he does. Well, he's a 1-3. So if we're looking at this profile, I know I misspelled his name there. Ignore that. Um, but the three is how other people see him. And it also is about experimenting. I know it's called the martyr in traditional human design, but it's about experimenting and many things, many different things. It's about variety. It's about trying, testing, you know, being willing to fail and try again. Like the three is where, especially in a 1-3 or a 3-1 like kind of design, you're looking at someone who people will say, why don't you just stick to one thing? If you just stuck to one thing, you'd be all successful, right? And that which isn't true because the three is here to do many different things. So he's literally living his design when you're saying all the things that he is, right? And then, but that one is how he sees himself. He is the creator. He
Mm,
is the creator. He's the creative. He's the one who is bringing resources to archetypes and showing them to us. Like, so that's, and then single deaf people like me, I call us lone wolf, fast brain, lone wolf, which he can just jump in and go. And when looking at I took a few notes here to look at this because I know when we're looking at this, it looks very like, oh, he's got a lot of open, like a lot of people that have these open centers. See how all the shapes are white? Like
mhm.
when you have a lot of open, undefined, he doesn't have anything undefined. There's definition in every single one, meaning there's colored spots in every single one of them. But he's got open centers. And that's when you're just taking in energy. So he was already designed to take in all the world around him. And the only thing that he's really got a specific point of view about, because you're talking about those blurred lines, this
Yes.
is blurred lines. Blurred lines when you're like, I can be all kinds. I only have two defined centers too. So I kind of understand they're different centers, but they're when you have a lot of open centers, there really isn't a lot of everything's kind of open. Everything's kind of on the table. Everything's up for grabs. Everything's possible. And you kind of feel that because you understand many different points of view. And you didn't like come in to just push out one specific point of view. But the thing he came to spit out as as the point of view here, we can find in all these, everybody has all the energy. I always say, don't think that don't have energy and they do have energy. That's not true. We all have all the energy. It's just what you do with it. And so for him coming out as root, who am I? I am. My I amness for him has
Mhm.
been what he's been playing with. It's like the clay he took to explore and create. And then also, all this energy he gets from his sacral. So if you're a generator, you're going to feel it like making gut decisions, follow your gut. That's very true to do
Right.
that. Yeah.
With that,
So,
is that something because it's traditionally labeled the martyr, but it's really
yeah.
this person who's willing to guinea pig and beta test themselves
Yes.
over and over and over again. And
Yes.
is that does that contribute to potentially him being a bit of an outlier? There's always a controversial conversation like why did he miss getting nominated for an Oscar three separate performances? I've always said because he doesn't play it safe, he's not inside the lines. It's so brilliant that they don't know what to do with it. It's a paradigm shift.
Yeah. He's, well, I took let me pull up some notes. I think you're right there about him not, fitting a mold, you know? And we know Hollywood, you have to fit him, like they typecast. What do you do with this guy? He's this, he's that, he's all this stuff. How are they going to all of a sudden take this guy who can do all these different things and say he was the best actor or whatever role was the best when it's so different from everything he does? People are so dumbed down in our society. That's what I think. I think he wasn't easy to say this is who he is, so they just didn't want to even put him up there.
I find that the Golden Globes, which he has, that's his wheelhouse. That's where he's recognized. That
Because
is
that's the one that where the people vote, right?
Yeah, and it's creative reward, whereas the Oscars are predictable. Even when it's a big plot twist and an upset, I'm never surprised. Like I hate to,
Yeah.
sorry, Demi, I knew you weren't gonna win. I knew
Oh,
you.
you're like, I knew it. So a couple things here that I thought were interesting to share here is that I like to, what I do when I look at, oh, I'm looking at the wrong one. I'm sorry. I'm looking at someone who has the same chart and I just pulled up. I'm like, oh, wait, that's not what I wanted to share. Sorry. Hold on. Okay, I've got it now. So looking at his chart and his audience is one of the things I always like to look for everybody because everybody wants to know like who am I supposed to help? Who am I here to impact? What am I supposed like even if you're not marketing, you have an audience of influence. Like we all have spheres of influence, right? So who is your sphere of influence? And we have many, but this one in particular is a really strong one because I think of it as the low-hanging fruit. It's it's really in your family, your friends. There's a placement in your codes that for him, it's the gate of opinions. So people who are watching him, who are really in his sphere of influence, are super opinionated. And it goes from being self-critical to being just flat out, opinionated about everybody else, right? Which at its lowest energy is opinion, right? Then it grows into having far-sightedness, into omniscience,
Okay.
omnipresence. So that's why he mastered that energetically, got out of opinions and judging and deciding is this good, is it's not, because he experiments and tried everything. He got to where he could be anything, anywhere, all at once. Like, he really became that. And then for him to actually step into talking about being omnipresent or omniscient was insane. When I read this, I go, he's really achieved mastery
Yes.
absolutely brilliantly. His sun sign, like you said, that's where the sun. How did you put it? When you see your sun, that's where.
Your
How did you
methodology in life. It's
methodology?
your pathway. I mean, you and I are both Pisces. We're going to use imagination, intuition to get through our life arc, but we have very different ascendants. And that's how people can kind of filter us and how we see the world.
Right. So in human design, his sun, where the human design expert would say 70% of his neutrinos go here, he is the embodied magician. He is the magician. He is,
Yes.
yes. So it comes from using creativity to overcome all the obstacles. And we see that. I remember him being on Oprah and talking about how he used his, I wrote that check to myself.
That's a huge point. And we were gonna, yes, I will say that his chart ruler, his Mars, is in the second house. Like this is a guy who was going to bet on himself. And then he told everyone in front of Oprah, one of the world's greatest manifestors, here's how I did it. I wrote myself a check. I dated it 5 years out that this is how much I'm going to be worth. And he did it. And what's even more interesting is he did 5 movies within 2 years that made him the most bankable entertainer of his genre.
Wow. Yeah. It's not a surprise, when you look at his charts, he was perfectly set up to do what he did. Doesn't mean it was destined. It just meant it's almost like I always think of it like you kind of go into like sit at the table, here's your Play-Doh. What are you going to make with it?
Yeah,
Well, you could sit there and make nothing with it, or you could go, well, I made it look like this. And maybe you didn't have the pink color, but you improvised and did something else and made this, right? Like, so it's interesting to see that he's such a powerful magician making things happen. And then also when you're talking about his, well, I'll go to the unconscious Mars. So you're talking about Mars being the direction that you take your life. You said it
Mars
was in the
is
second
your
house.
action, your ambition, and at some point your aggression, what you're willing to fight for. So
Okay.
he
Oh,
nailed
that
it.
makes so much sense with my own chart. That just made sense. I'm like, so
Good.
I'm willing to fight for other people because it's in my seventh house. No,
Yeah.
it's not. It's in my sixth house. What am I talking about? Oh,
No,
I'm
then you're
willing to fight for health. Is that it?
health and service.
And service and about the daily stuff. Oh, interesting.
Yep.
I love listening to you because I
It's
learn
not
something
very
every
nice.
every time.
Well, thank you. Well,
Well,
one of the things I love because there are so many good Jim Carrey stories. He's an open book because of that blurred boundary. He doesn't
yeah.
know how to tell you who he is, so he's going to do it from all these different angles and all these different sharings that he's got. When he was a kid and his family didn't quite have the money, he saw a bike in a mail order catalog. He said, they taught me at Catholic school if I just prayed really hard, I could get any, like my wishes would come true. And because he had the experience, whether that was the correlation or not, that he got that bike, he's always believed in magic. So for you to call him the master magician, can you
Yeah.
imagine thinking, holy hell, this works? Like I'm just a kid and I'm already getting what I want. Like his relationship to I can do anything changed my life.
Yes. I love that. And yeah, I think, in human design, when we look at this Mars placement, it is about being the divine creative, being very self-expression. It's the gate of self-expression. So that's what he was. That was the direction for him to. It was also so we kind of consider it in human design to be one of your core wounds. So
Mm.
maybe when he was really younger, he couldn't express himself. And I looked up I did a little research, and I found out he probably is dyslexic.
Oh,
And
okay.
his Chiron
Yes,
is at 3. And what do
in
you
my
want to bet
chart
he
it's
tried to read? What do you want to bet he tried to read and he couldn't read?
that if
He
it
was,
were in three, if we did whole house, if we did that system, then it could be wound around classmates or wound around educational learning. In my chart, it shows the fourth house, and there is that critical moment where his dad lost his job, and they all had to pretty much live in a trailer park. And he he watched his father become depressed,
yeah,
and it just between him and his mom and his dad, he's like, I have to bring them some sort of hope and joy, which
yeah,
segues
this,
nicely into this third house. So let's take a look at that. I'm going to reshare.
yeah, go ahead.
We're going to get right back into Jim. So, the second most interesting thing about his chart is I use Placidus, and right here
Mhm.
we're looking at his third house. He's got a lot going on in there. We have his sun, his Venus, Saturn, Mercury, and Jupiter. Now, for anybody else besides Jim, I might slant the third house and say, oh, this would have been formative years, that he might have been the high school star, or he might really love education and writing. No, in his case, I'm going to shift it to this is the house of communication. This is where you're going to see him, you're going to hear him, you're going to hear him. He's got the mind, he's got the voice, he's got the words, he's got the language, whether it's verbal or nonverbal. This one is a master communicator. And if we break
Yeah,
that down a little more and look at the dynamics between those planets, let's start with the Mercury conjunct Jupiter right here. These two
right.
being so very close to each other, they're at the same degree. That's going
Oh,
to
wow.
that's going to amplify his communication abilities. Even if he didn't speak a ton of languages like I do, he was going to bring several selves to language. And I think that's what makes him such a beautiful channel as far as an actor, even though that isn't him living in his destiny, which we'll talk about as my third chunk of Jim's chart. But this is somebody who's going to have the broad knowledge because Jupiter is the expander and Mercury is the mind and the intellect and the voice. And if
Yes.
we take a look at Jupiter is where you get glamored. So in his third house, this is everyone's going to love you for this.
Ah,
So
yeah,
he's got his Venus up in there too. Like, how did you get two benefics or charm planets in the same house? Like, talk about chef's kiss. This guy
yeah, right,
is some type of popular, even though there are other elements of his chart that make him unconventional. Is
right,
he's the really likable weirdo.
right.
He's got it going on.
Exactly. Yes.
Now you look at, so that explains that stack right there. Let's move over to the sun. And even though it's not directly conjunct, it's in a close relationship with Saturn. That one's an
Right.
important to talk about. So we know that there's going to be some critical dynamic with his father. Saturn represents the dad, your actual dad
Okay.
or your father figure in your chart. Saturn is going to give, because it's so close to his sun and his methodology and his playbook for life, you're going to see somebody who's serious and self-controlled. And probably because there's that Saturn, that constriction, that delay, and because it might even involve the father, there's going to be some early hardship. And they're going to try and deal with it in very conservative ways instead of jumping over to Jupiter and say, let's, yank the tablecloth off the table and let everything fly and see if the chaos is helpful. No, this is very narrow. This is a little bit rigid.
Yeah.
It's probably what
This
helped
is
him.
we're staying in the car.
Yep. All right, everybody, we're losing the house. We have no money. Let's go down and get a trailer park by the river instead of
Right.
me, the magician, who would just say, all right, I need to come up with 50 possibilities and multiverses on how this could go. And that
Yeah.
has, so it probably also gave him a little bit of dark humor. And if you
Yes.
if you grew up on his sketch comedy in Living Color with the Wayans brothers,
Yes. I loved In Living Color with he was my favorite. I mean, I love them all. It was great, but like
Fire Marshal Bill was one of
Fire Marshal Bill.
it's terrifying, which seeded him being able to go into one of my most underrated performances of his is Lemony Snicket's, A Series of Unfortunate Events. Is it really is one of those tragedy keeps befalling you and you keep getting a little push, which I have so Dimitri, you've heard me speak of him, New York photographer, brilliant creative in my opinion. Can't wait to see him blow up. He showed me the movie Flow, which is a Latvian French production, which won the country's first Academy Award. And it is an apocalyptic flooding that's happening. And these animals keep encountering, adversity. And then there's just that like little grace, little wind in their sails to just whoop, keep them moving on. So
Keep you moving
him in that
on.
movie
Yeah.
where his attempts keep getting thwarted and the kid's safety keeps getting compromised is one of my favorite performances of his. And it comes from such dark humor. Like it's really
Yeah.
suck to be the villain who can't get it right.
Yeah. Right. Right. Oh
Yeah,
wow. That's very, but that's all right here. So wild.
it's
He
all
has
right
so
here.
many planets down there. It's crazy.
Does. And if we take a final look at his Venus in the third house, but it being so close to Saturn, so you have a charmed planet and you have a challenge planet so near each other. And this is speculative, but I put some money down that a this impressed upon him difficulty with self-love and
Hmm.
touches of loneliness. There are things in his chart that could explain the recipe for his depression. That Scorpio
Yeah.
rising is very deep and intense. You're not exactly the life of the party at first impression. You've got Mars in Capricorn, which is a healthy placement, but it's still in an earth sign. If you're impatient or you're not good at waiting or long game is the strong game, but you're not feeling that, that can lead to, and I saw it in his human design, areas of frustration. That moon in the eighth house, that could be a lot of sensitivity cosmically or psychically that could be challenging and isolating because you're not all feeling what I'm feeling. I
Right.
feel a lone wolf. So
Well,
that's what I have
there's
to say about his third house, and I'm gonna unshare and let you say more, and then I'll close it up with where the career switched into his destiny.
okay. So I just want to add that you were mentioning the Jupiter and the sun, like being down there. In when I took a look at his gene keys in the pearl sequence, I like to look at the pearl sequence because that's your brand. That's how you're known for, right? That's your brand. So for him, this conscious sun is gate 60, and it's about like in the gene key 60 is at the most contracted state is about limitation. And as he expands, it's being realistic, being in real, let's be realistic about our what we're doing and into justice. But this is the embodied magician. That is what it is. It is taking what exists to to create with and creating. And he has this in two places, his Jupiter and his sun.
Okay.
So he doubled down on making sure he's going to be able to use humor and pleasure possibilities to create his own brand of humor and style and charisma and all these things. Um, because the primary action of this energy is to magically flow through the river of life.
Hmm.
You just said,
That.
I'm like you just were talking about the birds, the flow of life, flow, the
Yes.
movie flow,
Yes.
flow of life, and it's here in his human design too, in the gene keys.
As much as there is flow, and this is where somebody with too much charm in their life can end up very derailed, is as he got that constriction from Saturn and that plot twist with his father losing his job, and all of a sudden
Yes,
you go from, hey, I'm aspiring to one day I hope I'm a janitor at that fancy school across the river, to we're even further behind that. He has used constriction very well to become a master of his craft. He is the opposite of jack of all trades, master of none. He is so mutable, yet he's so masterful at a single source. It's almost like a big bang for him.
exactly, exactly. And I want to show you something else. Okay, so you see here, I want to show you also at the top. This is so you're talking about a sun, how people so like the way I think of this, okay, is like your sun is like your sun in astrology, right? That whole essence of you kind of like thing where your first house is like the character you're playing kind of thing. And so we kind of see that dynamic happening in human design when we look at the unconscious sun. And his unconscious sun is the same as his unconscious Mercury. So he doubled down again on how people would see him and how they would hear, what he would be talking about and sharing. And so I wrote down like he's not just a magician, he's a harmonizer. So to your point, he probably elevated the family with his humor. But mainly people see him walking his talk. Like he says something, he's going to actually embody it. Like he doesn't talk from the mountain down at people. He lives and walks his talk, and because this is the gate of the tuning fork. So he completely hones in also on what other people need to hear and see, which is if you're one of those people, that can also have its limitations and can be exhausting.
Yes.
And why I think when he you know, did go more spiritual and tried to explain it to people, he was being very truthful, but it was maybe a little ahead of his time. I think he's a little bit of a visionary, you know. But his thing here, it says, I just wanted to give this quote because I think it's really beautiful. It has to do with the same gate. So 50 is everything that happens to us is for our higher benefit. We're here to learn to live with equanimity. Even shock has the capacity to lift us with grace to another level of consciousness. As our equanimity, our equilibrium becomes truly stable, we become unshakable. We become truly peaceful. And our life opens up to a higher reality, a harmony that lies hidden from view, but that communicated continuously to us from every cell within our DNA. As this harmony expands inside us, we begin to function through our higher bodies. And so this is a quote from Richard Rudd. He's the one that created the book is 64 Ways. He's the one that channeled all the information on the gene keys.
I love
So I just thought, yeah, this is he's experimenting, he's playing, he's molding, he's crafting, he's magicianing, he's the magic maker.
Yes, and I've said this to a couple people, when you can have that depth conversation, when you can get very existential about what happened in your life instead of like a journalistic approach, like, well, when I was five, I didn't get the pony, that there are people in my family who are like that, and I tend to be much more like you just described, is this state of shock can take you to different consciousnesses. Obviously, you can go lower. I could have gone into victim mode or martyr, but I joke with some people that I'm part pirate. My formative years created such a like a rubber band. There was so much tension that I chose to take that potent like disharmony and just build a ship and go sail a new land. And th that has Jim Carrey is probably very responsible for me feeling like it's doable because he did it.
Yeah.
If life had been copacetic, I could be a boring Karen in the suburbs, settling for a marriage that's like nothing's wrong. Or I could, have a kid or two and be like, man, nothing's wrong. But instead, it's created a consciousness of if the world is my game to play, what can I magic? And I'm
I
very,
love that.
very, you know, seriously silly about that.
I know. I know. I love it. Well, so show me. So you
Front
were
row
talking about
seat.
his career. You were talking about the 10th house, something with you were going to show 10th
Let's
house.
go and take a look at now, once he's through all of he's got all his tools, the seeds have been planted, he's gone through his formative experiences. How
Right.
do we see his evolution into such an untraditional career and then graduating out of that? So let's do it.
Yeah.
And sharing is caring. There we go. Okay. So at this point, what I want to discuss is the upper part of his chart. Right here, we have some interesting things going on. We have Uranus, and this is the big one. This is where I want everyone to don't don't take notes,
Um,
but pay like listen intently with this one. We
okay.
have we've got Uranus right here. This is a big deal. It's so close to the midheaven, and Uranus is in a critical degree. It is 29 degrees. Okay, never heard that theory before. Why does that matter? Let me tell you what that's good for. The 29 degree is collective awakening. There's a tension point that you are a sum total of absolutely everything that it could represent with the flavor of that planet, and it's about to shift the greater good. It usually adjusts society. It usually has spotlight energy to it. Who are some
Mm.
famous people with 29 degrees in their charts? Just so you can relate, just so we start to build a pattern of, huh, yeah, they all did do something that wasn't there before, and now it's normal. I didn't think about that. Let's look at Elvis, Cher, Robin
Wow.
Williams, Michael Jordan, Oprah,
Yep.
Ernest Hemingway, who changed the way of a writing style, that free association. Oh, I love
So
it.
this is all 29 in Uranus?
I have 29 degrees. Drew Barrymore,
Wow.
she was one of the first female powerhouse production companies and started making stories where the hero was female. Flower
Yes.
Girl. And Gary V. I love Gary Vaynerchuk. He has changed the way people relate to social media.
Right.
And then, hey, yours truly. I have a 29-degree ascendant. And I am definitely here
Amazing.
I am doing divination differently. And
Yeah.
so we consider it the Game Changers Club. So let's go back to his specific 29 degree. It's so on top of a midhaven in Leo. Like he's going to have to have all the attention, and that 29 degree allows him to hold so much energy. Energy in the form of attention, opportunity, development, wisdom, strategy, execution. Like it's the knife at its sharpest. Why we
Mm.
care about Uranus in the 10th house of career and public reputation is because Uranus is the plot twister. It's going to be unconventional. It's going to go beyond norms. You're going to see somebody with a very unique talent that has to be seen and known for it because the Midhaven takes you out of career and shifts you towards destiny. It's the bridge.
Mm,
You stop being a you stop being me, and you start being we.
yes.
You're doing something for, with, through others. It becomes a collaboration.
So let me ask you, is this a midheaven in whole sign houses? Would his midheaven be in the ninth house?
More than likely, and we'll get to that because that's my last point is to flip over to the ninth house and say, so how did he get to be this last
Yeah,
virgin? When his fate showed up and he said, yeah, I don't want to make any movies anymore. I'm done. Which never said
yeah,
because you're honest, it was a plot twist, but he left Hollywood for a long time. But he's
yeah,
going to be the guy who's got the unique talent, who's going to break the mold. The changes will be sudden, and they were.
yes,
Somebody decided, I'm sure he didn't say, and next on my dance card, next for my career bingo, I need to do serious roles now. I think
yeah,
somebody said, all right, and come with me. And because he rose to the occasion, because he's such a pro at himself, it
yeah,
worked. It was very seamless. But look at these sudden changes. This was a guy who thought it was cute as a kid to write a future sketch comedy show. Meanwhile, he's killing it on stage. He's going from open mics to comedy performances. He becomes one of the only white players in living color.
yep,
And I'm gonna gush a little now. Between him and Tommy, oh my God, I was in heaven. I would just cry as a kid. I would be laughing so hard. It would take me away to a secret world where I could cope with the reality of a toxic home as a
yeah,
result. So Jim was my little getaway. He was my private imaginary best friend to make it all better. He was my fairy godmother in a way. I love him.
yeah,
Can't
yeah.
tell.
Oh, I
I know.
know. I love it.
But then he goes into films, and if you look at how quickly these came out, it was Ace Ventura, which was for a certain type of person. The Mask was the tipping point for me, is when he
Yeah,
went from just the downer and a little bit of the can't get it right, a little bit of a loser, and then this alter ego that gives him the confidence as a superpower. And
yeah,
yeah, and then all of a sudden people are persecuting him because, hey, you're a little too untouchable, man. Like you better
yeah.
in a box when you were a doormat. Then we get into Dumb and Dumber, which some of those some of those scenes. I mean, it's been a long time since that movie was made. I've done a lot of growing up, but I still Ace
It'll
Ventura.
always hold a spot in your heart.
Well, here is where I consider the bridge character is he went into a franchise from all those comedy movies. He was the Riddler in Batman, and his name was Edward Nigma, Enigma, and that's exactly
Enigma.
who he is at his
Yes.
original design.
Mm,
That is when he became the most bankable, and then he was guaranteed 20 million per movie. That's when that check manifestation came true in five
yeah.
years. And it was sooner than that. It was two, but it was five movies. So he had the number right, which is why I think he's a little bit of a psychic.
Ah,
Roll over
interesting.
into roles that were not comedy based. He won a Golden Globe nomination for The Truman Show, Man on
Yep.
the Moon, which was the Andy Kaufman biopic, and then the one
Yep.
I still use on if I ever if I ever get myself in romantic waters, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is my playbook.
Yes.
Like, why can't we start in the middle and go, this is me, this is you? And why can't I keep a journal of the best and worst and be able to review, is this playing out to be of the value to keep going, or should it come to a conclusion? That movie inspired me to do that with my life, which is why
Mm,
I'm not running around with, a broken heart or a bleeding heart just because a relationship didn't work out. Like that movie was was coded for me.
yeah,
What you guys don't know is that Jim also sings and dances pretty well, and that's very Capricorn of him. It's like, oh, I see, you're kind of good at a lot of things. It's because they're an older sign, and
yeah,
because they like the game of climb that mountain, what's next? So
yeah,
I said, I go back to it's not jack of all trades, master of none. It's I have a process where I get good at this one thing and then I build on that and I build on that and I build on that. They're excellent at formulaic achievements.
yes.
For
There's a
people,
lot of boxers that were famous born on his birthday.
yeah, I'm
So it's
pretty
it's
sure that
it's
Muhammad Ali.
interesting. Hmm.
So he pieces out on Hollywood. He's starting to have his what I call his crumble, where the ego death is coming, the
Mm,
disintegration.
yep.
And that's where it gets interesting because if you look right here, he's got his Pluto in the 10th house.
Yeah.
It's going to go into that crucible. It's going to get burnt down and refined into a purer state. And we also have Lilith right there too, called, there's going to be some taboo on this. Like you're going to do
Mm.
the thing that nobody else does, and we might not like it.
And they didn't. A lot of people did. I loved it, but a lot of people did not like it.
And I are very metaphysical. We are very tuned to cosmic, big pictures. And when he started becoming a spokesperson for that,
Yeah.
people were like, I don't want to have to relearn you. This is work, and I don't understand what you're talking about. Can
Yeah,
you?
you're crazy. He's lost it. He's gone insane. And I'm like, no.
No, he's gone uncrazy.
Hmm.
So all of this right here at an important time in his life springboards him over to his ninth house.
Ah, I see it there. The North Node.
Fourth node, which for to make this super simple, and this will be a blog post, an essay that's coming out. I left my skills for jobs, left jobs for career, left career for destiny. And Jim did that too. So what does that ninth house north node do? Again, it gives him the ability to hold so much attention in a completely different arena. The ninth house is wisdom, philosophy, leadership, metaphysics. And that's when he
So,
started going into different creativities. He wrote the children's book, How Roland Rolls, and it's a metaphysical kids book on how to deal with heavy things in life in a sillier way. And his
so
documentary,
this is fascinating to me. You just inspired. I just looked up the North Node, like in human design, that gate,
yeah.
and that code is 29,
Oh,
which is interesting. And it's about being devoted to things that matter and light you up.
yeah. And this is he cured himself. He found his own remedy and solution for his existential complexes. And what
Hmm.
I love is it being in the ninth house, which is higher learning, getting published. He's written a memoir. He's got documentaries going on. He has an honorary doctorate. If you've ever seen him give that commencement speech,
I've seen it. It's awesome.
it is. And what's wonderful about it is I can't remember the college, but it was for divination studies. So you're talking, he went ninth house to go do ninth house to people wanting ninth house. That's when I knew, this guy is really going to finish his game, winner takes all, becoming that existential speaker. He's gone from funny guy to actor to drama to writing to art to philosophy and wisdom and sharing a beautiful message and helping other people who are probably outliers and being a little different through their journey and pathway. Pretty
What a
incredible guy.
great, what a great like first person to look at in this series, right? I
Yeah.
mean, that was amazing. I just feel like continues to be someone that, I've always thought extremely highly of him. And when he went really off the wall to other people, he became more real to me. He became more of a person for me. So I really love that we did him first. And if you guys can put down below in the comments what you think about Jim Carrey, we'd love to hear what you thought about this episode and what you think about him. Even if
Yeah.
it's something like, even if you're like, I can't stand the guy, I would just love to hear what you think about him. But I think our people probably love him as much as we do.
And if you don't, I'd be very curious to hear your thoughts on what it is about him that isn't likable for you. Because just because he's got so much energy around being likable, sometimes that's exactly why people don't. I
Yeah.
can name a handful of celebrities that everybody adores, and I'm not having it.
Well, that's the three, right? In the way, that's that martyr thing. Like there's a little ability to just really not connect with certain people, but it's usually because of the other person's conditioning. I'll just leave it
Yep.
with
Yep.
that.
We
So,
have we
you
have we
know,
have our yeah, we have our checks and balances for what we do and don't like.
yeah.
And so, do you have anything to say for people who are generators that aren't Jim Carrey? And I'll have a little something to say for people who are Capricorns that aren't Jim Carrey.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you are a generator and you know you have energy for days, the biggest like takeaway that would probably help you the most is to realize that just because you can doesn't mean you should. And you can do anything probably that you want. And that does not mean you should do all of it. And you have to really check in with your gut. You really need to do that gut check. Generators can accident because you it's hard to stop. It's hard to push the brakes on something once you start. You're going to want to see it through to the end. Like you were saying, like it's very Capricornian
Mm.
kind of thing. A generator is very I mean, there's generators in all signs, so that's not an indicator, but it's that same kind of thing of like, once I start something, I really want to finish it. And so as a generator, you can find yourself in a situation where you're like, oh my God, I should have never said yes to this. Why did I ever say yes to this? Well, your body knew before you ever said yes if you should say yes or no. So if you were ignoring your body and you were saying, yeah, my gut was telling me don't do this, but I did it anyway, you don't ignore your gut. That's my biggest advice. Don't ignore that gut because that is your guidance. That's your direct hotline to your intuition and to, you know, your spirit team or however you want to phrase this, like where you can just go, "Oh, I'm going to be really supported in this or this is going to be a huge pain in my ass." Yeah.
Great
So,
advice. So
yeah.
my advice for Capricorns, and you got one in your family, and I've got my moon in Capricorn. Completion is pleasure. Finishing things is a dopamine hit. My favorite word in the universe, done. I'm shameless about it. So my advice for people who are using the methodology and the pathway of Capricorn is where you can get frustrated that everyone gets to be a little more spontaneous or they're really good at starting things. Team up with those folks who give you that catalyst, that push, because you're the one who takes it across the finish line. You are the closer in the zodiac. If I want something guaranteed to be final, I'm calling my Capricorns. I had a grandfather, a grandmother, my moon, and a business mentor. And I'll tell you, they're not busy saying, I'm going to. They're busy saying, I did. So
It's
step
true.
into that. It's a little more legacy and a little less, I have 12,000 unfinished projects. So, don't get too frustrated with the people who are idea addicts because you're Action Jackson.
I love that. That does explain how he was a three, but this very successful three. Like he didn't just start a lot of things, he also completed them.
He owned his methodology very well, and
Yeah.
he should give himself credit for that. Jenny, this has been wonderful. And to our lovely viewers, whether you are going to comment or not, and if you have the curiosity, well, how do I work with these lovely ladies? We have access. You can gain proximity to us. You can do a snack size session with us. You can do a full session. You can do a series, and we will give you ways to get in touch with us below the video.
Yes, below in the links and everything. So awesome. All right, we'll see you next
See you
week.
next week.
Okay, I can't wait and surprise everyone with who it is.
Yeah.
Bye.